For the past year, I've been going through a very interesting time in my life. For the first time ever, I feel like I know what I want, or at least I've been honest with myself about what I actually want out of this life and what direction I want to start heading in. For a while, I kind of repressed these feelings and kind of diluted myself because I didn't want my ego to get hurt if things didn't turn out well, but that's not the case anymore. And it feels weird, but in a good way, because I feel like for the past 5 years, one of the biggest hurdles that I faced was not knowing what I wanted and not knowing what path to take. There were just so many things I wanted to pursue, so I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go. So that really weighed on me for a while. This past year, I've experimented more than I have in my entire life. And honestly, it's been amazing, but also very frustrating. I tried pursuing things that I dreamed of doing since I was a kid, and a lot of them I realized were not dreams for me anymore, which is always kind of disappointing, but I'm glad I got it out of my system, because if I didn't, I feel like I would always wonder, what if? But now, I'm feeling good. I feel like I know myself more than I ever have before, and I know that I'm not done learning things about myself. But in terms of self-discovery, I feel like this past year was definitely needed. A year where I just experimented with every single thing under the sun. Every single dream, even if it was like a little phase in my life, I feel like it was important to explore that to see if it actually was right for me. And some things stuck and some things didn't. I really was just like throwing things at the wall. And now I know what sticks and what doesn't. Unfortunately though, that is just one part of the battle. Now I'm faced with the reality of actually going after what I want, which is kind of scary. It feels like I'm starting from scratch, basically. It's different when you're pursuing something that you've been working towards your whole life, but pursuing something that came from a discovery that you made about yourself later on in your life is kind of scary. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what these discoveries are for me personally. I want this video to be for anyone going through a transition period in their life, but going on this new path feels like a complete 180 from everything that I've been pursuing up until this point, because I didn't really grow up ever thinking that I would have wanted to do this. So it's like, where do I even begin? I have to basically teach myself things from the ground up, and I know how much time that's going to take, but I also know that if there is a time for me to do it, it is right now. And part of that is because I'm young and I don't have that many responsibilities, but I don't want that to be the main reason why I think now is a good time to do it. The best time to go after your dreams is not dependent on your age. If you have a passion or a dream, the best time to go after it is when the passion is still burning inside of you. And the passion is burning inside of me right now, and I'm afraid that if I wait any longer, the spark is just gonna die out, because I think I'll be really sad if it does. I'm honestly at a point where I don't even want to think about doing anything else until I see this dream through. But right now, it just feels like it feels like I'm about to climb Mount Everest with no gear, no training, and I'm just at the very foot of the mountain, and I'm looking up at it, and there's a dude behind me telling me that I cannot go home until I get up there. That's maybe dramatic and a little corny, but that's just how I feel right now. I feel like I'm so unprepared, no training, no prior experience, no nothing, just pure ambition. But the alternative is that I go back to a life where I'm doing something that's comfortable, and I'll probably be happy doing it. I'll be happy through other things like my family or my friends or taking a trip here and there. But I'll always be wondering what would have happened if I wasn't scared. And when I think about that, I am mortified. I am a person who is terrified of dying. But the thought of living a life where I'm always wondering what if scares me even more than dying. I often think about my favorite works of art, whether it's physical art, film, or music, and I think about how sad I would be if the people who made them never actually made them. Obviously, I couldn't possibly know what I was missing if it was never created, but I'd like to think that there'd be something missing in the world. And I feel like if I don't create something for myself that I love, there's always going to be this huge void in my life that will never be able to be filled by any amount of money, any partner, or any children that I decide to have. And that really scares me. It might sound selfish, but I can't possibly make anything around me better if I'm not happy with myself. Knowing me and who I am, I always have this fear of going after what I want because I fear that one day I'll decide that I don't want to do it anymore. I've always been a huge dreamer, so outgrowing your dreams seems very scary to me even though I've done it multiple times already. And maybe it's because I've experienced it so many times that I'm scared, but my friend said something the other day that completely changed my outlook on life. So I've been really into the color red lately. And if you've seen my room, it's all red. I even bought red shoes, a red scarf, a red bag, everything is just red. And I told her about how when I was younger, I was obsessed with the color maroon. And I bought so many maroon items that after a certain point, I got so sick of the color that I couldn't even look at it anymore. And I said to her while we were out looking for home goods that I was debating getting red sheets because I'm afraid the same thing will happen to me. I was scared that one day I just won't like it anymore. And she just said, well, when you don't like it anymore, you can just change it. I know that seems very obvious and very simple, but for some reason this really shook me. Okay, my camera just overheated and I put my book on there. I'm praying that it does not tip over. Anyways, I was saying that I think this struck a chord because for so long this is how I operated. I would like something, but I was always scared to dive deeper into it or commit to it because I was afraid that one day I just wouldn't like it anymore. Why do I do that? Who cares if I don't like it one day? I like it now, and when the day comes where I don't like it, I'll deal with that day when it comes. And who knows, maybe that day won't even come and I end up with something that I love and that I'm proud of. I've had my red bed sheets now for half a year, which is not too long, but I really love them. I get sad whenever I have to change them out, and they just make my room look so nice. And at the end of the day, who cares if I change my mind? Am I not allowed to do that? When I was younger, going into the sciences was my dream, and then having this YouTube channel was my dream. And I'll always be grateful for it, and I'm always going to be grateful for the people who have supported me on here. But so much has changed since then, and I'd like to think that I've grown a lot as well. And so the things that are important to me have also grown and changed. Where are you, mysterious bird? I feel like this sounds like I'm quitting YouTube. I'm not. I'm still going to be here, and I'm going to try to be here for as long as I can. But there was a point where I was considering doing this full time, and that's not something that I want anymore. Actually, it hasn't been something that I wanted for a while now. Anyways, this is just an example. What I'm trying to get at is I changed my mind about YouTube, but I ended up with something so amazing. I have an amazing community on here, and I built so many skills that I would never have had otherwise, and that was only possible because I was willing to commit the time and the energy into it. And I know that this is going to be the case for so many other things in my life. As long as I'm willing to put the time, the energy, and the commitment into it, I'm going to end up with something great, even if that path isn't something that I decide to do for the rest of my life. Okay, the waves are really crazy today, so please bear with me. During times like these where I'm moving from one chapter of my life to another, I think it's important to remind myself that no matter what I put my efforts into, it's never a waste. Even if I change my path later on and it feels like I'm wasting my time. These skills and lessons I learned come back to help me in so many ways, even if it's years from now. And I also have to remind myself that even though I'm moving into a different era of my life, doesn't mean that I have to do this crazy rebrand or ditch all the things that make me who I am. I talked about this before, but I used to have a very black and white way of thinking. It was very much all or nothing. And so whenever I thought of starting a new path, I always thought that I'd have to make it this huge thing where I become a totally unrecognizable person. I would really be discrediting all the work that I put into myself if I just completely changed who I was out of the blue. It would be like I'm neglecting the person I had to become in order to get where I am today. But sometimes the best and the most stable changes that we make in our lives come very gradually. They come from slow but consistent work, which for someone like me sounds dreadful. I am so impatient sometimes, and when I set my sights on something, I just want it right away. And during weird limbo periods like this, I just want to skip to the part where I'm doing well and going steady. But I also know myself well enough to know that if I didn't go through this, if I got where I wanted to be, I wouldn't even appreciate it as much. It's not that I like to struggle, but it's nice to know how much work you put into something. And it's nice to know exactly what went into the foundations of what you build. I think these things are what gives us the confidence and the resilience to keep on going when our journey inevitably has its ups and downs. Maybe I'm still very naive and maybe I'm still looking at the world with bright eyes. But I truly do believe that when the time is right, I'll get exactly what was meant for me. I just need to have the patience and the dedication to get there. I think I'm ready, but that doesn't mean that I'm not scared. I'm terrified. I was actually talking about this with my dad the other day, about goals and dreams and whatnot. And at the end, he asked me if my dreams scare me. And obviously, I said yes. To which he replied, well, that means you're doing fine then. Typical dad wisdom. Shout out to my dad. But yeah, I think our dreams are supposed to scare us. That means that we actually care about them, right? But anyways, that is all that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. Oh my god, that wave is huge. Hope you have a great day and I will see you next time.